Yeah, if you look at the speech I gave at the National Defense College several months ago, I outlined how I saw the shift in terrorism around the world and what we have to do to respond to it. And part of what I said is that we had decimated core al-Qaeda that had been operating primarily between Afghanistan and Pakistan. But you now had these regional groups, some of which are explicitly tied to al-Qaeda or that ideology, some of which are more localized. Few of them have the ability to project beyond their borders, but they can do a lot of damage inside their borders. And Africa is one of the places where, because in some cases the lack of capacity on the part of the governments, in some cases because it is easier for folks to hide out in vast terrains that are sparsely populated, that you're seeing some of these groups gather. And we're going to have to continue to go after them. But there's a difference between us going after terrorists who are plotting directly to do damage to the United States and us being involved in wars. You know, the risks of terrorism and terrorist networks are going to continue for some time to come. We've got to have a long-term plan that is not just military-based. We've got to engage in a war of ideas in the region and engage with Muslim countries and try to isolate radical elements that are doing more damage to Muslims than they're doing to anybody else. We've got to think about economic development because although there's not a direct correlation between terrorism and the economy, there's no doubt that if you've got a lot of unemployed, uneducated young men in societies, that there's a greater likelihood that terrorist recruits are available. But where you've got active plots and active networks, we're going to go after them. We prefer partnering with countries where this is taking place, wherever we can, and we want to build up their capacity, but we're not going to farm out our defense. And I have to say, by the way, the operations that took place both in Libya and Somalia were examples of the extraordinary skill and dedication and talent of our men and women in armed forces. They do their jobs extremely well, with great precision, at great risk to themselves, and I think they're pretty good examples for how those of us here in Washington should operate as well.